what I came to learn is that it's not like the food is going to ever fill me up or whatever, the gambling, whatever the addiction is to the drugs, it gives you temporary pleasure. But what we're really all looking for in life is lasting pleasure. And the only thing that brings lasting pleasure is gratitude. In other words, we try to fill up with externalities. We try to fill the hole with externalities, but it's not a physical hole, it's a spiritual hole. And that's what fills it. A life of appreciation, of understanding, of gratitude and joy for every gift we have. Otherwise, we're never satisfied. Nothing fills us, nothing lets us feel fulfilled in life.
Hello and welcome back to Healing and Growing Hand in Hand podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Tickle, and today we have Bracha Goetz, and let me read you her very impressive bio. It's amazing. She is a Harvard-educated author of 43 children's books and a candid memoir for adults about her journey to joy in the Judaism, nourish the soul, filling the emptiness within. Her newest picture books include Let's Stay Healthy, Don't Read This Book, and The Mother Who Always Says Yes. That's so sweet. And so what we're going to talk about is really interesting. She's going to share her healing journey from food addiction, which is very interesting. A lot of us have dealt with that, including me. And she's also going to share the golden nugget of practicing joyful gratitude, which I talk about all the time. So, Bracha, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be with you.
So tell us a little more about yourself, because you've already got quite the bio here.
I want to say that I listened to you on a podcast, and that's how I ended up contacting you. I was so impressed with you.
Aww.
And your story and what you're doing now to help other people because of what you went through. That's what I resonate with, because I have a very joyful life now, but I'm not ashamed to share really the part of my life that did create a lot of shame for me. And that's when I suffered from food addictions, and it was a very difficult time. I mean, all addictions are like being in a prison, and that's how it felt for me.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with that. I have never. No, I shouldn't say that. I did have an addiction to cigarettes.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing to quit. Oh, I had every single withdrawal, but I did feel trapped, 100%.
Right. And as the addiction gets worse, the walls get narrower. It takes over your whole life.
Yeah, it does. I know, it really does. I mean, because I would think, like, I can't even go on an airplane and fly a 5-hour flight. That's a long time without a cigarette. I mean, it does. It becomes your whole world. Absolutely.
Right.
So tell us your story, as much as you care to share.
Okay, sure. Let's see. I think it starts really around age 12, when like my body started changing. I began adolescence, and my mind expanded, and suddenly I was asking, what are we doing here? What's the purpose of life? You know, in fact, I read the Diary of Anne Frank, and I started my own diary. So here it is, like, this is my memoir, Nourish the Soul, Filling the Emptiness Within. It's my I took highlights from my diary, and then when I got older, I called it a journal, and letters that I wrote, and I filled in the missing pieces. It's the beginning of my search at age 12 for meaning. Like, I felt something missing in my life, but I had no idea what it was. And the search got more and more desperate. What I realized at the end of my memoir, what I realized from putting it together, is that there was a thread through it. There was a reason for that desperate search, and there was a reason for my food addictions. And I think it has to do with all addictions, but with food, the analogy is so clear that we have we have an inner emptiness that we're trying to fill.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, really with any addiction, it's kind of that. But food is a little more complicated just because we have to have food. We have to, we
Yeah,
can't get away from it, unfortunately.
yeah, you can't eliminate it completely.
Mm-mm.
Exactly. So that's what I was doing. I was I would have these like uncontrollable binges and follow that up with really restrictive dieting.
Mm-hmm.
So that if a person looked at me, they had no idea how I was suffering. You couldn't tell because after these horrible binges, then I would go on these diets, and so it was completely taking over. Here, I was a person who again, I was searching for wisdom in life. So I started doing really well all of a sudden in high school, learning about everything, and that's how I ended up going to Harvard. And and then at Harvard, what was I studying? I was doing like groundbreaking research on eating disordered behavior because I was suffering. I
Mm.
was suffering and I was trying to learn more about what was going on. So I'm doing that. and and then by the time I got to medical school after Harvard, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. That was my goal because I was, of course, fascinated by the mind body connection. So by the time I got to medical school, the eating disordered behavior was the most bizarre. I was so out of control. And again, nobody has any idea what's going on. With addictions, it's all in secret.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And a lot of shame,
I,
right? Yeah, a lot of shame.
exactly.
That's what keeps us quiet.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And all the energy that goes into hiding it
Yeah.
and all the how you have to, hide it all. So that's what was going on. And then I remember, oh, so that summer, it was the year between my first and second year of medical school when I really didn't care about living anymore. It's hard to believe. Harvard graduate, I'm doing well, going to medical school. It looks like a life of
On
success.
paper.
Exactly. Inside, miserable. I
Hmm.
was so miserable. So that summer, I went to Israel. I ended up learning about my own spiritual roots, which I did not know about. I ended up learning deep spiritual wisdom.
Mm.
I ended up not returning to medical school because I was so overjoyed to find out what the purpose of life was. Like I finally and I had been searching in so many different ways. What I discovered is that the purpose of life is to enjoy this world in gratitude. This is so basic and we just don't learn it. Nobody explains that to us. We were put here in this amazing garden, but we don't appreciate it. We we need the skills. So that's what I do now. I write children's books. I give presentations to children and adults all about gratitude and how important it is to learn the happiness skills as early in life as possible
Yes.
so you don't have to play catch up. You don't have to go through a lot of unnecessary
Yep.
pain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you had the food addiction all the way up until into medical school when it
Yeah.
was at its height. Then
Yeah.
you went to Israel, and where did it? Where what was the steps that caused it to break? I guess.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. What I came to learn is that it's not like the food is going to ever fill me up or whatever, the gambling, whatever the addiction is to the drugs, it gives you temporary pleasure.
Mhm.
But what we're really all looking for in life is lasting
Yeah.
pleasure. And the only thing that brings lasting pleasure is gratitude. Because otherwise, it's just so oh, in other words, we try to fill up with externalities. We try to fill the hole with externalities, but it's not a physical hole, it's a spiritual hole. And that's what fills it. A life of appreciation, of understanding, of gratitude and joy for every gift we have. Otherwise, we're never satisfied. Nothing fills us, nothing lets us feel fulfilled in life. So that's what I finally learned. That's really the deep spiritual wisdom that I was searching for. And and so when I started to write the book, I was searching for the answer to why, when I finally got the spiritual fulfillment that I was craving, why did the addiction just gradually drift away? Why did I no longer need the addiction? And that's what I'm loving to share now with everybody, because I understand that it's completely connected. That I really believe that at the basis of all addictions is that inner emptiness that we're trying to fill. And if we really learn the way to do that, then we won't have ever increasing addictions as we have right now in this world.
Hey, thank you for listening so far. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you won't ever miss an episode. Exactly. I was thinking, and I've shared this story, so I won't go into it necessarily, but kind of my aha moment about how important gratitude was. And I won't, like I said, I won't go into great detail about the story itself, but it was a situation where I was at work and it hadn't been good for months. It had been a real struggle working there. It was really bad. And I caught myself one morning driving in, and it was over an hour drive. So I had a lot of time to do this. And all I did the entire way out loud was complain all the way to work. So you could imagine by the time I pulled into the parking garage, my attitude. Right. I already started, and this is like 7:15 in the morning. So I'm starting my day off right. And as I stepped out of my car and just could really feel how crappy I felt, I know it was God telling me, I want you to, from here all the way up to the office, which was probably maybe about a 7-minute walk, I want you to say out loud everything you're grateful for.
Wow.
And I did. And nobody was around, so I just kind of muttered under my breath as I said the stuff, And it started with, thank you for getting me safely here to work. Thank you for this job. Thank you for the car that got me here safely, So it just started there, because I didn't feel gratitude about anything else about the dang job. By the time I got up to my desk and sat down, I was in a completely different headspace.
Wow.
It's powerful because you can't be sad and depressed and grateful at the same time.
Exactly. So we take every moment like that. Any moment that we're feeling gratitude is a moment that we're not being miserable.
Right.
Exactly. And this is something, I don't know. So one of the ways I teach this to children is this, like you were laughing, the title is Don't Read This Book. All day long, we have messages in our head. In fact, I learned we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and research is saying over 75% of those thoughts are negative.
Yes.
And over 95% of those negative thoughts are repetitive.
Yes.
We've had the same negative thoughts over and over and over again. So we all have these voices. We all think we're the only people feeling like this, but every single person has it. And what is that voice telling us all day long? You're missing this. You're lacking that. It's getting us to do what you were doing in the car. Focus on what you don't have. That's what it does to everybody from childhood on. Get us miserable all day long. Sometimes we have parents that help that process and make us feel miserable. Sometimes children, I learned somewhat about your difficult childhood, and people grow up with abuse, people grow up with neglect, people grow up with everybody goes through traumas, and we put protections on ourselves. And one thing I learned, what is it? The opposite of the opposite of pleasure is not pain. The opposite of pleasure is comfort. So we do these addictions to cover up the pain, but it doesn't really bring us it brings us temporary pleasure, that temporary comfort, but it doesn't bring us that joyful gratitude, that deep lasting pleasure that we're really craving. So it actually, all these addictions prevent us from experiencing true pleasure.
This might sound kind of crazy, but what crossed my mind, and I can remember this for myself. I don't understand it completely, but I can I know that this is true for myself, that when I was in that space of being negative all the time, and granted, I had some reasons to feel that way, right? But then I got stuck in that mode is what happened. So then that's what everything I saw was negative. And that almost gets addicting.
Yes.
Which is strange, to where you almost get addicted to that negativity. And then you get the confirmations of your negativity. And that just makes you feel better for a second. Hey, if you're ready to go deeper in your healing journey, join our 6-week workshop. Sign up today at womenschildhood-abuse-healing-workshop.com or click on the link below. I'd love to see you there and help you on your healing journey.
Exactly. It becomes a deeply ingrained habit. And it's our way of coping with, when a child has a very difficult and challenging childhood, they have to cope somehow, and it could be that way, just provides a temporary comfort to oneself if nobody else is comforting you. That's how you do it.
It's kind of that comfortably uncomfortable or uncomfortably comfortable, where it's our norm. We this is all we know.
These are coping skills that we need as children, and we hold on to them when they're no longer useful later on in life because we haven't learned other skills. That's why it's so important, right?
It becomes our norm. I was talking about this on a podcast earlier today, is that, we're raised this way and it's our norm, and we know it's off, but we don't know how off it is, right?
Exactly.
And we take these coping mechanisms into our adult life because it's all we know, because we haven't been taught anything else. And then we find out that coping mechanism doesn't work as an adult.
So we can teach even the youngest children this skill, and it's all right. So this book, it's called Don't Read This Book. It's the voice inside of our heads. It's teaching you how to outsmart that voice that's trying to make you miserable. And this book took me 30 years to write because I had to really gain all that life wisdom. I had the title, I had most of the book written, but I didn't have the surprise ending. That's what I was missing until I finally understood that voice inside our heads that's trying to get us to be miserable, it's also a gift from God. That's what I did not understand. It's like this. It's like a personal trainer. We have to push the barbell, the weight. We have to push the weight off of us, and that's how we grow our gratitude muscles. Each time we say, no, I'm not going to focus on what I'm missing. I'm going to focus on what I already have. Each time we push that away, we become a more grateful person.
And it becomes more of a habit. It becomes an absolute habit. And next thing you know, you're not waking up with those miserable thoughts. And you recognize when those miserable thoughts are starting to come in, and you're like, nope.
Exactly.
Nope, I'm not doing that. So it is, but it is, you're right. It is an exercise. It is a practice. And you can also slip back, because I know if there's times where I'm tired or whatever,
Sure.
I just want to be grumpy. Right?
For sure.
Give yourself grace.
For sure. Yes. We're always going to relapse. That's life.
Yeah.
And that's how we know we're alive, you know? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here if there wasn't more growth for us to accomplish, you know? And that's what your show is all about.
Mm-hmm.
We're helping each other grow hand in hand. That's why we had to go through everything we had to go through so we could what there's a line. We're not here to see through each other. We're here to see each other through.
Ooh,
That's
I
it.
like that. I haven't heard that
Yeah.
one. I like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell the listeners, give the listeners a few ideas of how they could, have more gratitude in their life. Because I know in my workshop, that's one of the practices that I start the very first night of the workshop is I have the ladies begin to start a grateful journal. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You start with the smallest kind of things. One of my favorite things to start with is an orange. You see this orange here? Well, you know, you know how the fruit are green because before they're ready for us, they're camouflaged in with the leaves. They're being protected so that they're not all eaten up before we get to them, right? So they're being protected, and then they become the most beautiful, brightest color when they're ready for us. They're calling to us, we're ready. So they're beautiful to look at. They smell beautiful. And then they have this individual wrap. They're individually packaged, the fruit. They're like perfect size to eat. And then we take off the wrapping, and all that sweet juiciness is protected for months for us. The orange that you eat was made specifically for you with infinite loving kindness, infinite intelligence. It's amazing because at the end when you're finished with the orange, you're left with these seeds. They're like eternal seeds because they become so many more trees and then so many more oranges. They're designed that way. They're designed to go back into the earth
Mm-hmm.
and just keep multiplying. So you see, like, even a tiny orange, which we could overlook and take for granted, has so much love packed into it for you. And that's just one tiny gift. Think of all the zillions of gifts in this world, the natural all the natural presents that are right out there for us to enjoy, and including our bodies, all the parts of your body that are working right now,
Mm-hmm.
all the diseases you don't have.
Yes.
It's once we do this, like if you travel on a road that never has been traveled on, it's very weird and it's hard and gravelly and hard to get through. But once you make those grooves, you've created these gratitude pathways, and it becomes less and less awkward.
Yep.
And you keep traveling it, like you said. And at first you feel weird being grateful for an orange, and then you expand it to all the different things in your life that you could be grateful for. Anybody listening to the podcast, it means you have ears, you have eyes that are working. If you could see us, you have so much to be grateful for. So, and even the fact that who's listening right now is a person that wants to grow and get better. That's such a wonderful place to be. So there's always what to be grateful for, and you just keep practicing it because, thank God, we all have neuroplasticity. We can change our brains
Mm-hmm.
and create gratitude brains with more neural pathways, and then it travels faster, and like you said, you become grateful much more easily.
Yeah, it just becomes
Uh,
really a lifestyle. And
yes, exactly.
and what we tell the ladies in the workshop to start doing is every morning start with just one thing you're grateful for,
Yes,
and then do that again at the end of the night.
yes,
Even do a reflection on the day and write down your wins. Those are just
yes.
really simple. And I know there were days in my life in the beginning of my healing journey when I didn't feel like I could be grateful for anything.
Right,
Nothing. So, I
right.
remember one day just being grateful that I could brush my teeth.
Yes.
You know, it really felt that bad. But that's a
Yes.
little spark. The fact that I was grateful that I was able to brush my teeth was started a little
Yes.
spark. That's all it
Yes.
takes.
Exactly. At my lowest point, there was a tree, a beautiful tree, and I just cling to that tree.
Mm.
There is still beauty in the world. I see it. You know, everybody's deserted me. Everything is terrible right now. But there's this tree. I see its beauty. That's you can get to this point and just find something
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
that keeps you going.
Definitely, definitely. So that's what I recommend as far as starting and just start. You know, it can be overwhelming sometimes, and like you were saying, it won't feel normal. It might even feel really kind of weird, but it won't
Yes.
take long and it will not feel weird at all because it really does. It doesn't just change the way you think, it changes the way you feel, it changes your
Yes.
heart. It opens
Yes.
up the ability to see things that you couldn't see before either. It really is a
Yes.
doorway to many, many things. It isn't just necessarily for you, although it is a great benefit for you, but others are going to benefit from you being grateful as well.
Yes. 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 It's really loving ourselves
Hmm.
because it's how to feel loved up all day long because we realize that we are the recipient of all this love. If you haven't been brought up that way, it's a whole new way to
Yeah.
look at the world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what spills out of us is what's in us. So if we're very grateful, that's going to spill out. That's going to spill out onto
Yeah.
others, and everybody's going to benefit for it, right?
Yes, exactly. When we light up another soul,
Oh,
our soul shines more. So, you know, I have this chart. It's called the pleasure ladder. Actually, people can download it from my website. I think it's free there on the chart. It explains each of these levels. The lowest level are all these natural physical pleasures in the world that when we experience them with gratitude, that's why
mhm.
when you if you're into overeating and you experience an orange with gratitude, I mean, it fills you in a way that the whole bag of potato chips never will, you know. The whole container of ice cream, you know, after you finish the whole container of ice cream, you feel emptier than the container, you know,
So
because
true.
it doesn't fill you. But here, if you experience these natural pleasures with gratitude, wow, then you get what they were really here and made for.
I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your questions about this episode or really anything that has to do with trauma. So you can comment below or you can reach out to me at asklisatickle@gmail.com. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.
The junk food is not made with infinite love and caring and wisdom. It's really designed, I say, the junk is designed to be delicious and addictive, while the natural foods, they're designed to be delicious and nutritious and help you, you know, and so we can feel much more gratitude when the more we experience that. And this what you were talking about is the middle level. When we give to others, that fills us with gratitude that we can help other people as we light up other people. You know, all these are different ways. When a person feels like overeating, they can look at the chart and think, really what I want is lasting pleasure. What are the different ways? There's an abundance of ways I could bring pleasure into my life right now. I have the power to do it. When we engage in addictions, we are doing that because of a sense of scarcity. We feel there's not enough pleasure in our lives. So when we recognize that there's an abundance of ways that we can bring pleasure into our lives, then we don't feel that sense of scarcity anymore, and we're empowered to bring pleasure into our lives through all these different ways of of experiencing gratitude.
Oh, I love that tool because the problem that I had was that I couldn't see anything else. So having something like that gives me some direction because I'm like,
Right.
okay, so where do I start? What do I do next? I had no direction. So it's really great to have a tool like that to kind of help guide you because we need that in the beginning and there's nothing to be shameful about that. It's a new learning experience and there's nothing to be ashamed about. And it's like I didn't learn about boundaries until I was in my 30s.
And like even the children's books, this one's called The Happiness Box. It's about a boy, he's miserable. His parents get a big washing machine. What I want to get stuff. He always wants more. And then they have this idea. They turn the box of the washing machine into a happiness box. Yeah,
Brilliant.
in this box, you can only think happy thoughts. It's a really special box. So he gets practice. He goes in the box and he tries to think of things he's grateful for.
Oh.
Eventually, he realizes that box is really here. Here's the
Oh.
box. We don't have to go inside. We could start off going inside a cardboard box and practice there. But we all have this happiness box in our heads, and we can turn them into happiness boxes.
Just unlock the
Yeah.
door. Just unlock the door. Right? That's all you
Yes.
have to do is unlock that door.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got one last question for you. And that is, what do you want to leave our listeners with?
Okay. What's the difference between a miserable life and a joyful life?
A lot.
It's gratitude.
Hmm.
That's it. The same life. And one person could experience it with gratitude or with misery. And every moment is like that. Every moment we have that choice, and we have the neuroplasticity to become a person that can choose gratitude no matter where we are in life, no matter what stage.
Hmm. Exactly. So, if our listeners want to reach out to you and get those wonderful tools, or maybe talk to you about gratitude a little more, how could they connect with you? And we'll have this all in the show notes as well.
Sure, my children created such a beautiful website. It's called Growing Impact Publications. That's where you could find all my books. You could download the Pleasure Ladder chart. It's either $1 or it's free. It's one of those two. and yeah, and I hope that everybody can enjoy more gratitude.
Exactly.
Just enjoy more
It
gratitude.
really is a life changer. It really does absolutely change the direction of your life, is having more gratitude in your life for sure. Well, thank you for being here
Yeah.
and thank you for sharing.
Thank you. My pleasure. A pleasure to be with you. I admire you so
Thank
much,
you.
Lisa. Thank
And
you.
thank you for everything sweet that you said in the beginning. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I did want to thank you for that. That's very sweet.
Thank you.